To say that Season 2 of Helluva Boss has been divisive among fans would be an understatement. Whereas Season 1 was largely met with universal praise, Season 2 has created more division than a 5th grade math class. While some folks will insist that the show is better than ever, others will state that the show is a shell of its former glory. I'm in the latter, since while there are things that I enjoy, Season 2 has been a massive downgrade with it feeling like a different show altogether. And if I had to sum up why that is, it would be that the series' priorities are all over the place. This is nowhere more obvious than how the core premise of the show doesn't seem to matter anymore. The pilot framed the show as a workplace comedy, which was a big aspect of what got me and many others into the show in the first place. Yet while Season 1 did stay true to what the pilot promised viewers, Season 2 has turned into a melodrama series about the romance between members of different social classes. Now, when I complained about the show no longer focusing on its original premise on Twitter, I got a lot of flack for that, with folks misunderstanding what I was saying. Though admittedly, I could have phrased it better. I'm not saying that I need every single episode to be about IMP doing their job, but the fact that it doesn't even seem to matter anymore is a genuine problem, given that it's what the show is supposed to be about. A counter-argument that many folks brought up in my tweet is that the show isn't about IMP doing their job, but rather following the interpersonal lives of the characters. Ignoring for a moment that the show specifically framed itself as a workplace comedy, why can't the show do both? Similar shows such as Inside Job, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and Star Trek Lower Decks have the characters doing their jobs while also delving into their lives and exploring their relationships. And even when there were episodes disconnected from the workplace setting, said setting never felt irrelevant like how IMP has become. Yes, the characters are what's important, but considering how this is a business founded and run by Blitz, with him wanting it to be a success, then that should mean that the business is just as important. But it has now gotten to a point where the title of the show doesn't even feel accurate anymore, since Blitz is rarely even shown being the boss of his business. All the juicy bits of backstories we've gotten on the various members of IMP and other characters have been great, but rather than the show trying to weave them into the main premise of the series, they focus on them exclusively while throwing the premise out of the window. This scene pretty much sums up how the show seems to feel about its premise in a nutshell.
I don't want to do business with IMP.
And you know, it's bad enough that the series has been neglecting its original premise, but what's even worse is how Season 2 has been neglecting its main characters outside of Blitz. Apart from its premise, the other thing that I loved about the show was its core cast and how they all bounced off each other. Each relationship had something that I loved, whether it be the constant back and forth of Blitz and Moxie, the adorableness of the M&M's marriage, or the complex familial bond of Luna and Blitz. I especially find Blitz and Millie's relationship to be fascinating, since whereas Blitz babies Luna and belittles Moxie, he treats Millie with respect. Likewise, Millie never gets annoyed by Blitz like the others and tend to operate on the same wavelength as him. I'm also still waiting for a proper Millie and Luna-centric episode, since those two rarely interact with each other. Season 1 had just begun to scratch the surface of these relationships, only for them to be placed on the back burner because of several factors. One of which is the series prioritizing Blitz's relationship with Stolas over everyone else from IMP, along with the amount of focus that he has gotten in general. Though I'll allow my fellow feline friend and Stolas' #1 hater, ArteiceTB, to further expand on this.
Sup Streaks, I'm Arteice, and thank you PC for having me. But I'm gonna keep this very, very brief because I've said everything I can say about this piece of owl shit. I made my own video a while back explaining why I think Stolas is a terrible character, and to put it simply, he's a terrible dad because he neglects his daughter. Even when he's supposed to be paying the most attention to her, he's still obsessing over his freaking booty call. Of which, he would make a terrible partner too because he belittles and is very classist towards imps. How are you gonna want a loving relationship with an imp when you don't even respect their class? And you know what? I believe he's also a terrible husband because while, yeah, it was an arranged marriage between him and Stella, It takes two to make a baby, and at least she was on board with, fine, I'll create a child with him since it's our duty. At least she was more willing to put in the effort while he just laid there. To this day, I really don't think Stella SA'd Stolas, because when you think about it, they're both in a non-consensual relationship to begin with, since they were both arranged since childhood. So yeah, it's not consensual either way. But it's not like she wanted to do it either. She was told, okay, have a child with him. And he was told the same thing. And just because he was lying there, he didn't put as much effort as she did. So I might be a Stella stan. And also, I'm very disappointed, and I even hate the confirmation now from the recent panels. We lost the possibility of having a great sleazy villain to love to hate to a woobified, oh, whoa, I didn't do anything wrong. Everything in my life was terrible because even though I'm a rich, stupid owl, everyone was mean to me, and my daddy bought me my first boyfriend, and he was uncomfortable, but I didn't know because I'm a classless idiot that people confuse for autism coding. Also, chill, I'm autistic too. And let me just say, just because you've been socially isolated from the real world, that doesn't mean you're automatically autistic. Okay? I just really cannot with Stolas. I hate the new direction they put him in. We really could have had something in the beginning. He is not good for Blitz. He is not good for his daughter. He's not even good for Stella. I get a sadistic kick out of rewatching Western Energy for that matter. Like, yeah, torture him, Striker. Do it. Finish it. Finish the damn job. Yeah, that's the long and short of my end. Stolas can go to hell, like deeper into hell. Thanks for having me. My channel is ArteiceTB if you want to hear me ranting more about Helluva Boss and why I think so critically about this show. It has its moments, I'll give it that. It definitely has its moments. But boy, having great visuals can only take you so far. The writing can really be trash sometimes. Alright, that's all I gotta say. Bye!
Stolas is a mess of a character, and while I don't hate him per se, I hate how much focus he has received, and I would rather see Blitz's relationship with the rest of the main cast be developed further. But the amount of focus on the Stolas romance showcases how Helluva Boss has become yet another series in recent years that has fallen victim to prioritizing romance over its core plot along with its exploration of non-romantic relationships. Season 2 makes this even more clear given that we have received fewer scenes of Blitz interacting with the rest of IMP, with all of them being absent in Oops in Mammoth's Magnificent Musical. Hell, we haven't even seen Blitz and Luna have a conversation with each other since Seeing Stars. Phasmodius is also starting to fall under the prioritizing romance problem of the show and may become an even bigger problem depending on how the rest of the show goes. Fizz and Ozzy went from secondary characters to basically main characters, with them being the stars of 2 episodes back to back. All the time spent on Stolas, Stolas' familial drama, and Phasmodius ties into another overarching problem of the show. It's juggling way too many storylines. At this point in the show, we have multiple storylines which include the after-mentioned Stolas and Blitz romance, Dokes knowing about the existence of creatures from hell, Blitz running his business, Crimson seeking revenge on Moxie, Stella wanting Stolas dead, Blitz's estranged relationship with his sister, Striker grudge towards royalty along with no doubt wanting revenge on IMP, and the newest storyline introduced as Modius having to deal with the apparent consequences of revealing his relationship with Fizzawali. All of these are meant to be overarching stories, so I don't expect any of them to be resolved quickly, but having this many storylines is a problem. Instead of the show prioritizing the storylines that they've already set up and taking time to resolve those first, they just keep on adding one after another to the point that it has become an unfocused mess. This is nowhere clearer than in Western Energy, in which the episode ends with Stolas in a hospital and Blitz being shot by this, only for the episode afterwards to introduce a new storyline in which Blitz is looking for his sister. I know I just complained about this series becoming the Stolas show, but if you're going to prioritize the Stolas storyline, at least be consistent with it. It makes zero sense to be introducing this new storyline at this juncture in the story when it would have made more sense to focus on Blitz and Stolas. And it's even more bizarre that this is where the show decides to properly introduce viewers to Barbie rather than showing her in a flashback from the season 2 premiere. But no, not only do they introduce the Barbie storyline at this bizarre point, but they also decide to introduce another storyline afterwards in which Asmodeus will be facing consequences for admitting that he's in love with Fizz. Yet that storyline is already a mess since the fact that it was supposed to be a storyline wasn't apparent at all. It was established multiple times in Oops that everyone in hell knew that the two were an item.
You probably just asked if I know who I'm dealing with. And oh yes, I know. The weakest and most non-threatening of the Sins. The king who will do whatever it takes to save the worst-kept secret in all of hell.
Sure, you could be pedantic and say that even though folks heavily suspected this, they didn't have confirmation till Asmodeus confirmed it himself, hence why it's being treated as a big deal. But the big reveal would have been far more impactful had the show treated this like an actual secret that no one was aware of except for Mammon and a selected few. It's also undermined by the fact that Queen Bee, one of the other 7 sins, is in a public relationship with Vortex. Given the implication that Hellhounds rank even lower on the social ladder than Imps, I don't see how Asmodeus being with Fizz is a big deal, but this isn't. Folks love to say that IMP doesn't matter since the show is taking the time to do world building, even though the world building isn't even consistent. The show's lack of consistency is even reflected in the relationship of some of the characters. The season 1 finale ended on a sweet note with Luna tucking Blitz in and calling her dad, only for her to be physically assaulting him 2 episodes later. While it has been established that their relationship isn't the most stable, it has only taken the form of arguments. So to see Luna beating the crap out of Blitz for him asking her to be more polite towards Client is some major whiplash both in terms of tone and their relationship. And that ties into the overall tonal whiplash problem that's been plaguing season 2. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, because while season 1 knew when it was the right time to make a joke along with being consistent with its tone, most of season 2 doesn't seem to realize that at all. Western Energy is the biggest example of this, since we would cut back and forth between Stolas being tortured by Striker or seeing him fight the M&Ms to Blitz trying to give Luna her shot. These cutaways completely ruined the tone of this episode. I've also noticed that they've cranked the sex jokes up to 11, with most of them not even being funny. Seriously, the more time that was spent on Fizz describing how big Oz's dick was, the more I found myself groaning until it was finally over. And in that same episode, I knew that Blitz was going to make a joke as he and Fizz hugged, cause heaven forbid a moment to be genuine, you just have to turn it into a joke instead. There are still a few episodes left to be aired for season 2, so perhaps they will tackle the criticisms that I have, but that doesn't take away from the fact that season 2 has been a downgrade in terms of writing quality, with Mammon's magnificent musical being the sole exception at this point. In order for the show to truly bounce back, it needs to get its priorities in order. So prioritizing the main cast of characters over all the secondary characters, exploring their relationships more in depth, having IMP be relevant again, and not set up any more storylines. I know that there are plenty of folks who aren't bothered by the things that I listed in this video. I've even seen some folks say that they're happy that the show doesn't even waste time with its workplace premise anymore, with them watching the show more so for the romance rather than anything else. And hey, if you're one of those people, you're valid for feeling that way. But for fans such as myself, we are annoyed over how we were led to believe that this show was going to be a workplace comedy that had a creative premise and interesting characters, only for both things to become irrelevant as time went on. So let me know how you feel about the direction of the show in the comments below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell so you'll be notified when I make a new video. If you want to follow me on social media, you'll find the links to them in the description box below. Until next time, I'm me out the heel.